Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Breaking News Bears podcast. I am your host, Mateo Ruiz. I'm joined by Evan Davis and Mario Russo. And today we're going to be talking a little bit about the NL East and our predictions for how that division is going to shake out. Welcome to the podcast, boys.
Happy to be here, as always. New division, new week, new talk.
It's my league now. We're heading towards the National League.
You're on your side of the tracks.
We're on my
Yes, sir.
side of the we're on my side now.
All righty. Well, let's kick it off with the New York Mets. Obviously, a star of the offseason. They've made some pretty big moves, notably the Max Scherzer deal. They've gone after Eduardo Escobar, and they've made some pretty good adds to a team that's, always been a promising team, but has always struggled a little bit with injuries. So looking at their offseason, what do we think of their offseason? I personally have them at an A+. I mean, you've gone after a ton of talent. You've gone after, really great players, and you've paid a lot of money for that, but you got to spend big to get big talent. So I think the Mets have had a great offseason so far, and I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. Maybe Evan, we'll start with you.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'll start right off. I gave the Mets an A+. Like I think for a team that has really struggled to find free agents to come to New York, last or 2 years ago, it was the whole Trevor Bauer situation. Or I'm sorry, no, last year was the Trevor Bauer situation where the owner was very confident that Bauer was going to be a Met, and legit the 20 minutes before he committed, he had a switch of heart and went to the Dodgers. Max Scherzer, if I was not a fan of the deal because I just thought it was way too much money, and I just thought it set a market price for pitchers, a value that just seemed really unreasonable. I understand how good he was in the second half with LA. I got to witness it firsthand, but I just thought 43 million for 3 years was not ideal. But the owner's stupid rich, and if you have the money, what's the point of saving it? And even if they get 2 years out of Max Scherzer, who I believe is currently 38, then I think you still won the deal, depending on how they do come postseason time. I mean, they had the under the radar moves with guys like Starling Marte, which was, that guy steals bases he should be in jail for how many bases he steals a year. It's incredible. I mean, that was a huge pickup, and they got great value out of him. I think 4 years, like 72 million, which a guy that does a lot more than what a game box score might show. But no, their rotation is definitely, I say, within top 5 in the National League.
Totally fair. Yeah, the Mets are a team that is used to coming in second place in free agency. The whole Bauer situation, they struck out on Springer as well. They thought they were going to end up getting him, right? So if you got to pay a little bit of money to lock that guy up and be sure that you're going to be the one that signs it, I'm pretty sure Mets fans were being sick of coming in second. Mario, what do you think of their offseason?
Yeah, you mentioned being in second place. They're the second team in New York. Nobody really ever cares about the Mets in recent years. All about the Yankees, them always pushing the playoffs and ultimately falling through in that situation. They're not done yet. They've made some huge, big splashes like you guys have mentioned. I've heard a lot of rumors that they want to make one more, and I think they have so many players that they can go against in this free agent market when it resumes that they can go out and get. I personally think the starting rotation, that 1-2 punch with Scherzer and DeGrom, that has to be the best 1-2 punch in all of baseball that I've seen, at least in recent time. It brings me back to those Detroit Tigers days that we were talking about a couple weeks ago when it was Verlander, Scherzer, Robbie Ray. I just found out was on that roster too. You name it, they had a perfect one. Yeah, exactly. You had all those guys that you could use and from your back pocket, of course. I gave them an A. And the reason why is because they made the big moves. They brought the big guys. New York, like you guys talked about, is not really the destined market for players to go towards, but they brought some guys there. The only thing that I really have to see is the bullpen. The bullpen has been their kryptonite in the last couple of years. So since I believe Familia, he had a terrific season, that 1 year wonder. I think he had like 40 saves, 35 saves. It was a high number. I do remember that. And yeah, they just haven't had that bullpen success since then. So if they can add a couple bullpen pieces, and I know there is, and there's a lot of teams that are going to pay top dollar for those high leverage arms, I think that boosts them, right, for me at least, an A+. But the outfield is well rounded. Mark Canha, Starling Marte is terrific additions to the club. You got Cano. I just found out today that he's back from I guess he was with steroids or illegal substances, something of that nature, and he's back now. So you have your second baseman to fill in for Javi Baez. So that's really what I got. It's an A grade for the Mets. Terrific offseason thus far, and they can make it even better with a bullpen arm.
Yeah, I would like to lower my grade. Now I am thinking A because I realized, because Edwin Diaz, he wasn't that great last year, and the bullpen was definitely the Charlie horse of that team. I think if they are to add another piece, it has to be a bullpen guy. like maybe Kenley Jansen, somewhere like just a closer that won't blow as many saves as Edwin Diaz did.
Yeah, that's totally fair. That bullpen right now looks like Evan Diaz, Seth Lugo, Trevor May, Miguel Castro, and then there's some questions. We've had Aaron Loop in there. How consistent is Aaron Loop going to be, right? You've got guys that have had off years and have had breakout years that may not be consistent, and so yeah, shoring up a piece like a Kimbrel or another guy like Kenley Jansen that can really come in and solidify that pen is really important for this team. I totally agree. As far as record goes, the Mets, have had a history of underperforming in recent years. So with that in mind, I have them coming in at around 84 wins, even though this team is much better than that. I think this team definitely has the potential to be a 90 win, have a 90 win season, but the Mets can't seem to stay healthy. And when they do, always seem to sort of underperform, have lackluster seasons from their stars. I wonder where you guys have the Mets sitting. Mario, we'll start with you.
Yeah, same situation. I got maybe a ceiling at about 90. I would even go as high as go 93 because the guys on paper, that team, if they're all humming and going at it, it is a terrific lineup and one that should be feared from the opposition. And I know we're going to get into all the other teams, but the NL East is, I wouldn't say completely wide open, but it's fairly close for that top spot, depending on how other teams go. And I know we're going to touch upon it, but no, between 83 to 85 wins for me is what I see them. It's just about them getting out of the gates and putting up some consistency. If you can get over that spring hump and come out of the year guns a-blazing, I think you're on the right track to doing something, because they always seem to struggle out the gate and there's so many downfalls throughout the year. Try to limit that as much as you can, because this team is known for their insuccesses this past couple seasons.
Well, yeah, I mean, guys, if we're only having them win 7 or 8 more games, don't we look at the managing and just be like, what the hell is going on? Like, they won 77 games last year without this new lineup, and it's going to look very new 1 through 9. I mean, if they only can win 7 more games, I seriously be considering finding a new manager after 1 year. Yeah. I don't think that would be ideal at all. That's definitely not why they spent a gajillion dollars on new players. I mean, right now I had their ceiling at about 89 wins, because I mean, Atlanta is still no joke, and I have Atlanta still winning the division, even though the Mets are making these moves, just because it's not a lot of homegrown talent, if you know what I mean. Like, a lot of these guys that are in their lineup that they just acquired aren't, it's not the same as if like a team, like as if another team developed all these players through their system. A lot of these new guys are coming in. It might be a little discombobulated at first, but they can't win only 7 more games.
Yeah, no, totally agree. I mean, if the Mets do underperform again this season, there's going to be some serious hell in that front office and in that managerial staff, because this is too much talent to have another lackluster season. I mean, Mario, you mentioned that this division was essentially wide open, which feels a little bit weird to say in a division that's produced 2 champions in the last like 3-4 seasons, right? But the NL East may be one of the more toss-up divisions in baseball, where a lot of these teams, if they get out the gate strong, like we said, and make a decent push, could definitely end up taking this division. I'd like to move into sort of MVP, Cy Young sort of thing. Let's start with your MVPs. I didn't really pick an offensive player for this one, but I ended up picking a guy who's also my Cy Young pick, Jacob deGrom. So why don't we run through it and we'll hear MVP and Cy Young together, and we'll start with Evan.
Yeah, for sure. I just wanted to, I was actually, I mean, obviously you're looking at Jacob deGrom. I just like, the one issue is like, has he really been healthy throughout each season? It always seems like he has injury concerns, which sucks for how good he is and how dominant he is. But I'm going to give my MVP to Pete Alonso, just because I know he's healthy and I know the durability. It's just with Jacob deGrom, for how dominant he is, that's just the one thing that's wrong with him. For Cy Young, I'm going to go Max Scherzer. I just think he's back in the division that he spent a good maybe 5 years. Was it a good? I can't remember
over
how.
5 years.
Yeah,
I think it was probably around 7.
Oh, okay. So yeah, 5 to 7 years in that division. He's back in his familiar territory, and I think he's the Cy Young. Just also given his durability as well, he's able to pitch through a season.
Yeah, Mario, where do you sort of think about that? Because I know the big question mark for deGrom is his injury status. Is he going to play a full season? We know obviously when he plays a full season, he is one of the best players in baseball. But where do you sort of think that the awards for the Mets are gonna go down this year?
Yeah, and I mean, I didn't really follow the criteria of it being the MVP necessarily. He's going to be the most valuable player on the roster. I think maybe a make or break, something that is going to influence their season quite heavily. And I have to go with the guy who leads off almost every game for them now that Andrew McNeil, that's a teammate of mine. What's his first name?
Jeff McNeil?
Jeff McNeil.
Jeff
Yeah,
McNeil.
he's not.
Shout
he's
out to
no,
Andrew. Shout out to
Shout
Andrew.
out to Andrew. Hey, he's playing down the States. Good buddy
free,
of mine.
no free. No free ads.
Oh, but no, yeah, I get those names mixed up because I played with him for 8 years. But no, I think Brandon Nimmo. It's a weird name. Okay. You don't expect it, but he's a consistent bat, man. If you go look at his stats over the last couple of seasons, he's been putting up consistent numbers almost all the time. He's a guy who sprays all over the field. He can hit the long ball when he needs to. He can do just about everything that you want from your leadoff hitter. So I think maybe the offense is going to run a little bit more through him. And I know this offense is so talented. You can just list about everyone. And Pete Alonso, Evan, is a great piece as well. You know what he's going to do. You know what you're going to get from him. It's going to be a bunch of bombs. If this guy can keep consistent and even out the lineup, I think it's a great thing for the Mets. And if I'm going to go Cy Young, I have it right here. Cy Young, Taijuan Walker.
Oh,
can he be a liable? I don't have Taijuan Walker. Let me be clear here. I have either Scherzer or DeGrom, but I had something to say about Taijuan Walker. It's the fact that if he can be a reliable third starter, like we've seen him have glimpses in his past, man, this New York Mets team is going to look dangerous because they're going to have that third. They haven't had a third starting pitcher that is that a trio of three guys that are that lethal in a while. So if he can get some production out of him, this lineup is looking really good for this upcoming season.
No doubt. Yeah, Mario, you're touching a little bit on guys that, could potentially have breakout seasons, could really propel this team to, newer heights. Mm-hmm. I actually have as my make or break player is Pete Alonso. You guys seem to be very high on him. I went a little deeper into the statistics. Obviously, we know not last season, but the season before, he had a bit of a down year. This year, he's definitely picked it back up. His strikeouts are down, actually, which is very encouraging. But the interesting thing is also his power is down. And he played about, from his all-star season, the one where he hit 50 plus home runs that everybody remembers, he's down about 10 home runs from that. But his strikeouts are also, considerably down from that as well, which on the surface level looks like a good thing. But if you look at the advanced stats and you look at his OPS as well, it suggests that he was better off striking out and hitting 50 home runs. He was a more valuable player to the offense when he was striking out a little bit more and hitting 50 home runs. So I think it's just really interesting. Conventionally, you'd expect Pete Alonso's progression to be a better player, but the trade-off in strikeouts and power has almost led to him getting a little bit worse. Not, drastically, but a little bit worse overall over the course of 162 games. So it's going to be kind of interesting for me to see how Pete Alonso sort of shapes up next year. If he realizes that he's better off just swinging for the fences and hitting for power, or if this new approach is going to be consistent and we're going to see a more developed, mature, disciplined Pete Alonso in the future that hits less home runs, but maybe gets on base a little more. Evan, what do you have for make or break?
Yeah, I have Edwin Diaz just because look, for a guy that you need to rely on, especially in the postseason, if you don't have a closer, you're screwed because a starting pitcher in the postseason is ideally only going to get you 5 to 6 innings, just in terms of how quickly they're playing their next game. And if Edwin Diaz continues these struggles, you got to think that they're going to make a move for another closing pitcher, whether that be at the trade deadline or even just at the beginning of the regular season. I think he's on a very thin leash.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely closing is going to be an issue for this Mets team. Edwin Diaz, a little bit shaky in recent years, could definitely use some help in the bullpen.
I was at that Dodgers game when we were up they were up 8-1 and we won 9-8, and Edwin Diaz gave up 4 runs in the 9th.
Yeah. I mean, he's put Mets fans through hell sometimes, but he's also come up big sometimes. So it's just, what are you going to get from Edwin Diaz on any given night?
He points to think it's a fly ball and it's just absolutely smoked 450 dead center, and he's like, oh crap, I thought that was a fly out.
He's got a pretty good entrance music that the Jays like to mock sometimes in the locker room. There's a pretty good video of that. Mario, who do you have for your pick for make or break?
Well, I was gonna stick to who I said before, Brandon Nimmo, just because I think it's gonna be he's gonna have to be a piece that the Mets roll with. If they want to have a decent longevity of success this season, they're gonna have to get some production from that, what I suspect to be the leadoff bat in Brandon Nimmo. So I'm gonna stick it very simple. Brandon Nimmo, make or break on the bat side of things. I didn't want to go too obvious answers, so I finally dug deep for one episode of this podcast and picked up Brandon Nimmo. Great stats.
I like it.
Great guy going forward.
It's an underrated pick. I like that there. Yeah. Moving on. I mean, we just spoke to Mario. Obviously, he's got the jersey on. Let's talk a little bit about the Atlanta Braves. So starting with sort of the offseason they've had, obviously, Freddie Freeman is the big lingering question mark. Are they going to be able to get him back now that the Yankees are around on him? We know the Dodgers have had talks on him. We've heard the Jays might be interested in him, which doesn't really sound like a fit to me, but that's besides the point. Seems weird, but apparently it's a thing. It seems like every team in baseball is in on him, and every team in baseball should be calling Freddie Freeman's agent right now and trying to strike a deal, because the Braves have obviously failed to do that so far. They've also added Kirby Yates, but obviously this offseason hinges on their success in bringing back Freddie Freeman, who was a key piece of that championship team. I personally have him at a C. I don't see that offseason being any better unless they bring him back. Honestly, you could even drop it lower if they don't. But yeah, obviously hinges on whether or not you're going to retain Freddie Freeman, and it's kind of interesting. I'd like to see what you guys have to say about their offseason so far, Mario.
Yeah, so you bring up Freddie Freeman, and this is a very funny story that's happening right now. So my mother, we have some relatives down in Georgia, Atlanta. So she's actually right there, and I'm looking for an Atlanta Braves jersey. I got this one. I want the white. Okay. And we're talking about him right now, Freddie Freeman. My mom's sending me pictures of Freddie Freeman jerseys if I want it down there. So I'm really don't know if I'm going to take this, just because I don't know if he's going to be.
Are they on sale yet? Yeah.
No, they're not on sale yet, but I'm hoping
they
maybe
would never be on
enough.
sale.
Yeah. He is.
Actually, that's true.
He's beloved in Atlanta, and I really hope, and I don't think it's going to happen because of all the offers that you could probably get from any other team. But no, Freddie Freeman, I can't see him in another jersey, but it might be a reality. If I'm going to give anything about the Atlanta Braves, I'm going to start with the offseason grade. It is going to have to be a C+. I don't like that the fact that they didn't get to retain Freddie Freeman. They lost a guy like Chris Martin, not the Coldplay singer, the reliever Chris Martin. And the outfield just needs desperate help. You lose Rosario, you lose Jock Peterson. I think he declared free agency. And there was another piece who I am going. Oh, Marcell Ozuna. I know he's there, but it's a massive question mark. He's dealing with a lot of things. Issues. Yeah, absolutely. So he's a massive question mark. And I had to give him a C+ just because they haven't really improved too much from their World Series win. But no, if they can get some outfield help, and I know there's a lot of free agents on the market that can help them with that, this grade can easily go up to a B+, maybe even an A, depending on how much help they get.
Yeah, and the last thing you want to see is a championship team get stagnant, right? You don't want to see them get complicit just because they've won a championship and they're like, okay, we don't have to do anything else now. You want to see a team that, builds for the future, and a team that is able to compete, for the next 3-4 years down the line, and potentially turn this into a dynasty in a division that, like we've said, is pretty much wide in the open. Evan, what do you think about the Braves offseason so far?
I don't know. Y'all are sugarcoating it. I'm giving them a D-.
Wow.
This is horrible. I'm being I know I joke a lot, but I'm being serious right here. The fact that you couldn't re-sign Freddie Freeman, they had two opportunities. He shot down 2 deals from the Atlanta Braves, and Mario, you're saying you can't imagine him in another jersey. I know I'm going to be biased. I see him going to LA just because why? I've given my reasons. You said it doesn't make sense in Toronto because Vladdy, although he's lost a lot of weight, he still isn't that versatile playing the hot corner of third base. He seems to be a lot more comfortable at first base. I don't know if Freddie Freeman wants to be a designated hitter who plays small parts in a team.
Well, I think the idea would be to move Vlad to full-time DH, which doesn't sound super appealing.
Okay, well then, I don't think that's a good option just to have him.
No,
I think he needs to be more active within the Blue Jays, and that's why I was saying LA, just because of the thing with Max Muncy. Obviously, they have a lot of money. I'll get past that. Whatever. It's bad that they didn't sign him because now it gives him a lot more time to really think about what he wants to do. And the reason why I said LA is because he's from Southern California, and it's like the last deal before you want to move back home. And the Angels have 0 fans, so they don't even deserve to have MLB contracts. But it's just bad. And their outfield, all of them were free agents besides Marcell Ozuna. I'm sorry, not Marcell Ozuna, Ronald Acuna Jr. My bad. Sorry. But he's the only guy left. And if you look at it, who was oh my God, who's the the NLCS MVP? I can't remember his name.
NLCS MVP. What position? I don't remember.
Outfield. The guy that hit all the home runs. Oh my God.
Soler?
Yes.
No, that was
No.
in the World Series.
No.
Didn't Soler win World Series MVP?
Who won NLCS MVP? Oh my God.
It
I'm
wasn't
blanking.
Jock. Was it Duvall?
No.
No.
Uh,
Another
uh,
outfielder?
NLCS MVP.
Guillermo Heredia didn't play in the NLCS, did he? I'm trying to
Wait,
think of
sorry.
outfielders on this roster.
Maybe it wasn't
Eddie
an outfielder.
Rosario.
Eddie Rosario.
Eddie Rosario, that's right.
Sorry.
The left fielder that shouldn't have been a left fielder.
Yeah, sorry. Eddie Rosario. Like, I don't like, I'm afraid that he's going to get overpaid by a team. And I don't know if the Atlanta Braves are really wanting to overpay, because I just have a feeling with NLCS MVP attached to your name in a World Series champion, it's just going to be, that just causes for 20 million a year for 4 years.
He's raised his value a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. And I just, to your point also, Mateo, about like, you don't want to be stagnant. It's like, well, when the Dodgers won the World Series, they brought the freaking Cy Young Award winner.
Exactly.
Like, how about that? And they trade for one of the best pitchers in baseball and a top 3 shortstop in baseball. So it's just like, they got to do something here. But, the fact that Freddie Freeman hasn't re-signed, he didn't re-sign before the lockout. It's, I don't know. I just feel like there's like a rock and it's just getting chipped at each and every day that the lockout continues, just because it's each and every day he's really considering, do I want to move my family to LA? I have a young kid. Do I want him to live his life there? Do I want to move to Toronto? Do I want to move to upstate and go to New York? It's just, it's a lot to think about.
Yeah, and I don't mean to open a whole can of worms here, but it also calls into question just like how realistic we consider, like, teams aren't supposed to be talking to players right now. And obviously it would be seriously punishable if it did come out that a team had contact with a player or a player's agent right now. But it's not the first time that a professional sports team has, tampered and broken the rules a little bit before. I'm sure it wouldn't surprise anyone if there were negotiations going on under the table right now, and maybe some of these players like a Freddie Freeman or a Carlos Correa already have a deal in place and it just hasn't been announced yet, or hasn't, like, the paper hasn't been signed for legal reasons. So it's going to be really interesting to see, that first day when that CBA comes in, how many signings there are going to be on that first day. Because at least for me, it's kind of hard to imagine that there's no talking going on under the table and no players trying to, secure a future for themselves. Right. So.
Yeah, I mean, like, but those can just be like, I wouldn't, like, maybe if that's even like, at that point, it's like a loss of a draft pick doesn't matter. Like, I just
exactly
feel like
right. If you can get Freddie Freeman, who cares?
Like, I feel like that player should just like, I don't know how that works out, but it should not allow, it should forbid that team from re-signing. It should forbid the signing.
Yeah, it should, and I'm sure there's a policy in there, but teams get away with tampering all the time. And
I get it. I'm just saying,
it wouldn't surprise me if they were clever enough to put this under the table as well.
But this is different because a lot of like recent situations have not been when there's a lockout going on and they're trying to figure legal issues out. Like, this is a very breakable offense.
Totally fair. Do you guys want to get into sort of MVP, Cy Young, make or break predictions? We'll start with MVP. I've got a guy who could honestly end up winning comeback player of the year as well in the overall league. I've got Ronald Acuna Jr., a guy I expect to be in the MVP conversation. He's their star center fielder. He's the guy that was missing from this championship team that everybody was saying during the playoffs, when they get him back next year, they're going to be scary. Well, newsflash, they were scary without him. And they're going to be even scarier with him if they can bring this whole team back together. And he's going to solidify that outfield defense. He's going to be that piece in the center that brings it all together. And you're going to see a great, rested, healthy version of Ronald Acuna this year that has a chance to honestly contend for league MVP. And I think his main competition is honestly in his division as well. So, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But my pick for team MVP is Ronald Acuna. I'd like to hear what Mario has to say about his pick.
Yeah, so I mean, again, never really go MVP, more of the guy who's going to be a lethal force and someone who they can roll with if they want to have any success. Can Austin Riley have another great season? He was a terrific bat in the lineup last year. I picked him up on my fantasy team when he started generating some noise down in Atlanta. We absolutely have to.
We do.
That is on the list.
I drafted him last year.
Wow.
I know. Austin Riley.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
You pulled that out.
He was my starting third baseman.
Yeah, it absolutely paid off. He was swinging the bat, hitting the ball all over the place. If they can get another decent year out of him, and I wouldn't just say decent, if he can keep producing to the capabilities that he was, because he can always do it, man, this team, it's going to be a pretty dangerous one. I know we've been talking about the capabilities and the possibilities of this Braves team. Austin Riley only mixes into that conversation.
No doubt. Evan, where do you think the MVP for the Atlanta Braves is going to go down?
God, I mean, I'm gonna go with Max Fried. I'm
Mm.
gonna go pitcher here because as much as the offense is honestly what wins you a game, it's also pitching that can win you a game. And I'm going with the local Harvard Westlake boy. He's just been absolutely killer. The playoffs. It's whatever. Sometimes he hits a kryptonite in there, which he definitely needs to clean up because it costed them a game in the NLCS particularly. But he's still dominant, and he looks so mean out on the on the field, like on the diamond. I would not want to be the guy in the batter box that has to go up against Max Fried. But no, I definitely think he's the MVP. I think he's the reason why a team is able to win 5 or 6 more games, just given his quality starts.
Yeah, Max Fried, my pick for Cy Young as well, which segues kind of nicely into there. I mean, they say he's the closest thing we have to a modern day Greg Maddux, right? He's a guy that's going to get you through innings very quickly. He's going to get batters out and he's going to make them balls in play, which is exactly what you want to see from this new modern era of pitching to, not only save baseball, but to win baseball games. It makes the game more interesting and it's better for a defense. It keeps them awake. We know what Max Fried can do on the mound, and we know that he's going to have an exceptional season next year. As far as Cy Young goes, because I think Evan's pick is probably the same. If he won MVP, he's probably going to win your Cy Young as well. So, Mario, who's your pick for the Atlanta Braves Cy Young?
Yeah, so it was going to be probably unanimous. I had Max Fried as well. If I want to maybe make this one a little bit more interesting, does Mike Soroka, the Canadian kid himself, have a return from injury? I know he had, I think it was Achilles, if I'm not mistaken. I know it was in his leg or lower leg,
lower body. Yeah,
absolutely. Mm-hmm. And I know how much that affects a pitcher. I know a couple players, teammates of mine, former teammates of mine, that have went through some types of injuries like that. No free ads, of course. And as a pitcher, pushing yourself off the mound is going to be something that you're going to have to battle with all throughout the season. And no, if he can get some production from him and he turns out to be the player that he was in his first year with the Braves, second year with the Braves, I think you're getting some really good things from the starting rotation, as they should. This team looks really, really legit this year. They're getting guys back. They're getting guys healthy. And you've seen what they did with, like you mentioned, Mateo, with guys out. They won a World Series. Not many teams get to say that, of course, especially from this division. When healthy, oh boy, we are in for something. We are in for a treat.
Yeah, I mean, now that you mention it, there could be 2 players vying for the Comeback Player of the Year award on the same team, which I don't even know if have ever happened before. But yeah, Mike Soroka, Canadian-born guy, is a guy that definitely could come out and take his rightful spot at the top of this rotation again if he comes back healthy next year. Sticking on pitchers, my make or break candidate is actually Ian Anderson. We've seen flashes of really good pitching from him. He's a young guy, I think around 23 years old. And, he's got the potential to be a solid, you bring Charlie Morton and he's got the potential to be your number 4 guy and could be a very solid number 2 on just about any team in the league if he has another season like he does last year. Very, very talented young pitcher. He's gotten the playoff experience now and, has had varying levels of success in playoff games, but overall I like what I saw from him last year, and I'm expecting him to have another big year on this Atlanta Braves team that has the chance to have one of the best rotations in baseball if he really breaks out the way I think he will. Evan, I don't know where your head's at for make or break, but I'd like to hear what you have to say. For that.
I mean, Ian Anderson's a great pick. I mean, you're right. I mean, he could easily be the number 2 on practically any team. I mean, his strikeouts or walk ratio is insane. It's like 2 strikeouts, maybe even like 2.5 strikeouts for every walk, which is ridiculous, especially given his age. You mentioned 23 years old.
I think he's 23, right?
Yeah, it is. I'm looking right now, 23 years old, which only just screams more room for improvement.
Oh, yeah.
Just in terms of getting the ERA down. But my make or break's actually Adam Duvall. And that's just because I think we've seen this growing trend of players who have that one breakout year and then it just goes back to being a shit show. And I'm not trying to hate on Adam Duvall, but this is a guy who hadn't hit over 20 home runs in a season until this season when he hit, I believe, 38. And it just makes me think of a guy like Mark Trumbo, even, who hit like 45, and then the following seasons after that, it looked like he couldn't even muster up 20.
I mean, I don't want to discredit Adam Duvall's time in Cincinnati. Obviously, some may see it as a flash in the pan, but he did have 2 30 home run seasons when he played in Cincinnati as well. But we're looking at, at least 5-6 years ago. And to see a player make that jump, to your credit, Evan, to see a player make that jump from, his production in 2017 to his production in 2021 after having, pretty lackluster years in between and honestly not even really having a starting job for a lot of that time is a pretty, curious case, right? Are we going
Yeah,
to be able to see that next year, especially as he ages?
it was just I'm just looking at production, and I'm just like, look, the Braves relied on him a lot in terms
Hmm.
of just hitting for power. So it's just I don't want to hear another story of a guy who had a Cinderella-esque year like most of those Atlanta Braves did, which allowed them to win the World Series. But it's just you need him. If you're going to lose a bunch of guys, you need the power of Adam Duvall at third base, which is
Yep.
a position that honestly doesn't carry a lot of power. You see guys like Matt Chapman, but other than that, you're struggling to find that electric.
I want
Adam,
to.
yeah,
Sorry,
go ahead,
go
Mario.
on
Yeah.
if you want to wrap up the point. I
No, no,
just
no,
wanted to
no.
ask
Go ahead.
one question about the Braves, and I don't know if I was the only one thinking this, but back in the last season when they made their playoff push, they weren't the best team last year whatsoever. And
Not at
injuries
all.
plagued it. Poor performance from important players plagued it. So many problems in that lineup. And was I the only one that counted them out for sure by the time we hit the halfway point in the year? Like
Yeah.
it was. I thought they were done. I thought time in Atlanta stopped. I thought the success in Atlanta was over from all the years that they were going back to the playoffs every single year. I thought I was done. I thought the NL East was wide open and more teams are going to overlap. I thought the Philadelphia Phillies, the guys we'll talk about later, I thought they were going to capitalize on it. And then the Braves come out from nowhere and they just keep winning and winning and winning, push the playoffs, get into the playoffs. And then you all know once you got punch your ticket into the playoffs, anything can happen. I just want to know what your guys' thoughts were last year talking about the Braves, because I thought they were done for.
Yeah, very similar story to what we saw from the Nationals, which is a team we'll, obviously discuss later, but what we saw from the Nationals in 2019 when they went on to win their World Series. And, very slow start to the year. There were a lot of question marks. Everybody was saying blow the team up, which ended up happening, but to their credit, they won a World Series before. But very slow start. They didn't get out of the gates. And then, they started rallying around Davey Martinez and, everything sort of picked up for them. And that's sort of similar what happened to the Braves. I mean, everybody thought this division was going to be a tight race between the Phillies and the Mets probably. And, it was, people were saying for the whole season, it was just a contest to see who could get bounced in the first round. And the Braves ended up turning heads and proving everybody wrong. So there's something magical, it seems, about the NL East that, you don't have to set the gates on fire right at the beginning of the season to end up taking it at the end of the year.
Boys, we got news from Ken Rosenthal.
What do we got?
It's Trevor Bauer will not face any criminal charges in the LA court system. Sources tell The Athletic. Bauer's active investigation by the MLB remains open.
Oh, wow. But nothing about his status for next season.
I don't know if they could talk about that now, just because it's like contract stuff. I don't know.
That's fair,
but,
yeah.
I mean, he did opt in for this season, so
legal charges at all.
No.
Wow, that's
yeah. I mean,
yeah.
I'm happy that everything finally got resolved. There were a lot of things saying that Bauer should have been banned from the MLB for life, but it's like I wasn't ready to make that until I heard. I was going to say that if he faced criminal charges,
yeah, obviously.
I wasn't going to say anything until then. But obviously, they found him innocent, so now it's just a matter of what the MLB wants to figure out. But he is opted in for this season. I just got the tweet.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see how that story sort of develops, what kind of information we as the fans end up being privy to in that sort of discussion and sort of the results that come along with it. Yeah, I mean, that is potentially very good news for the Dodgers. So, yeah.
Come back. We need you.
All roads lead back to the Dodgers in this podcast.
I know, right? It's like
everyone's hurt.
Can't shake it.
Everyone's old.
No, everyone's hurt and old.
Yeah, but no, to your point, Mario, I think this was just like, we hear this all the time with every sport. If you're hot in October, if you're hot in terms of hockey and basketball in June and April, like you could have a lineup that looks like garbage, but if everyone's hot, then it doesn't matter who you have out there. And I agree with you, Mateo. It definitely gives me those national vibes. And fortunately, and unfortunately, they both beat the Houston Astros. So what are the odds on that? Yeah. But no, I think you can never count out Brian Snitker. I definitely one of the best managers in all of baseball. I'm sorry, not in all of baseball. Like I meant like currently, right now. Not, I'm not talking like
Yeah. I think in
not
the
like
league right now, he's one of the best managers.
sorry,
For
not
sure.
like a
Yeah.
Bill Belichick type thing, but like definitely a top 3 manager in all of baseball right now. And I mean, just the way that he coached this team and the depth that they have, and just the way that they're able to just find the best out of mush. It's a credit to them. And I mean, yeah, they dominated.
Yeah. Something about underdog teams picking on Texas teams as well. Because the last time I can think of something that happened like this that wasn't Washington is going to be the St. Louis Cardinals, right? When they beat up on the Rangers in the World Series, came down to the last strike, right? So baseball is really a sport where in a small sample size anything can happen, and that's sort of the beauty of a division that's as tight as this one, where you've got 3, maybe 4 teams that could even make a push depending on who you ask. Speaking of teams that can make a push, we've been alluding to it all episode. Let's get into the Philadelphia Phillies. Mario's team over here. Yeah, so I figure you're gonna have a lot to say about this segment, so I will turn it over to you very quickly. Obviously, the main concern with the Philadelphia Phillies coming off a Bryce Harper MVP win, you're trying to get into the playoffs now. You're trying to have some success. You need to develop that bullpen, and right now you've signed Corey Knebel, which is a start, but it's certainly not the end. And so, we're going to get a little bit of a rivalry here. I might just turn it over to Mario right now. Why don't you tell us what you think about the offseason for your Phillies?
Yeah, and you mentioned Bryce Harper winning the MVP. And I know I root for the Phillies. They're my team. I also root for the hometown team, the Jays. If Vladimir Guerrero Jr. won the MVP this season, they ultimately fell out of the playoffs. It feels the exact same way from the Phillies now. This guy just won MVP, and we absolutely wasted an MVP caliber season from Bryce Harper. It's I can't really see, as a Phillies fan anymore, too many wasted seasons. There's been way too much to count. Their team on paper is probably a top 10 team in the league. It is, the lineup from top to bottom is terrific, and they can get it done on all offensive sides and defensively. But it always comes down to what you mentioned, Mateo, the bullpen. And you signed Corey Knebel. That's a terrific help, but that's not the one and be all end all. They have to make a splash, and it has to be in this bullpen. There's so many arms that you can go get. You have to pay top dollars. And I know the Phillies don't really answer the bell to what the fans are asking for. So I'm probably going to be seeing in the next couple of weeks, depending on when this thing gets sorted out with the CBA, that the Phillies probably take a bat, because, why not? Yeah. Just take a bat and not the bullpen stuff that you have to fix. But no, so Phillies, bullpen. That's the only thing that's left that you have to fix. Everything else is good. If you can bring in the top dollar, you can pay the top dollars for a bullpen piece, a reliable arm, a high leverage arm. I think you win the offseason if from a fan's perspective. That's really all I got to say. It's nothing complex. That's the sad part about it.
Interesting you bring up the Jays in that conversation as well. Really similar situation, struggling bullpen. It's kind of the inverse when you look at the MVP and the Cy Young. You had the Cy Young winner for the Jays and an MVP finalist. And then you go look at the Phillies, and you've got an MVP winner and a Cy Young finalist too, right? So that top talent is really great there. It's just the bullpen that's holding these two teams back. Evan, what do you have to say about the Phillies offense? The offense. I keep doing that off season so far.
Yeah, they suck. No. No, I mean, like they got it's just the bullpen, man. Like they have a pretty solid starting rotation, but it doesn't matter if they can't get to the postseason. So but they do have, I mean, Alec Bohm is going to be a star in this league probably for another 10 years. I mean, he showed offensive spurts throughout last season. His speed is tremendous. He can definitely steal a bag here and there to get you that extra win. It's just, I mean, we're regurgitating information. It's the bullpen. I like Corey Knebel. He was great for us in LA. I'm just not confident in him being the 9th inning pitcher, because when we used him in LA, he was our kind of like 7th inning, 8th inning guy. The 8th inning if Blake Treinen needed a night off, or if Joe Kelly needed a night off. But it's a lot less pressure pitching in the 7th inning and the 8th inning than it is the 9th inning. And he was the closer in Milwaukee, but that was about 4 years ago. That was when he was coming off the year before Tommy John. But I'm just gonna say I hate Bryce Harper. I think no, I'm sorry. Like, I'm so happy that the Dodgers, like, I heard they were like LA, whatever, all roads lead back to La La Land. I don't know. I hate Bryce Harper. I think he's an ego-minded guy. And if you've noticed, just beside, like he won a World Series, but other than that, like success does not follow with him at all. What's like besides the 2019 World Series win, I don't think they had won a playoff round. Like the Nationals had won.
Harper wasn't on that World Series team.
Harper did not win a World Series.
Oh my God, I forgot he wasn't on that team.
No, he was not.
Adds to my point. I thought he was. Oh my God, because I saw so many pictures.
He left that year.
I saw so many pictures from that. I thought that it was okay. So then it makes my point even more abundantly clear. Success does not follow Bryce Harper. Okay, this is what the tweet that I saw. With Trey Turner, Bryce Harper, and Juan Soto, they didn't even win a playoff round. That's what it was. I'm sorry. When I saw that picture, I was thinking World Series win, but why would I with Bryce Harper? Anyway, it's just that he definitely does offensively, but defensively, I just feel like I think he tries to make the web gems and it just doesn't work in his favor.
Oh, coming at the defense too. Ouch.
He's attacking all
everything.
angles.
I don't want to say he's overrated, but I'm gonna say overhyped.
I think you got to respect too that he was MVP. I think this was his second time winning the award.
Second time.
So yeah, he's a guy that provides a lot of value, skill wise and entertainment wise.
Put the trophies next to your dolls. I don't care.
Alrighty. Evan's not gonna like my pick for MVP then later, but before we do that,
not be that guy.
Let's talk about the team record. Unless this team
162.
162, nice. They finished at 82 wins last season. I think that's probably where they'll shake out again this year if they can't address some of those needs that I don't want to belabor the point, but we've already addressed what those needs are in the bullpen, obviously. Mario, I don't know if you're seeing this season through rose-colored glasses or if you want to be a little more of a realist. Where do you think the Phillies are going to finish next year?
Yeah, when it comes to talking Phillies, you always got to be a realist because there's no fantasies down in the city of brotherly love. No, I got them sitting at around the same thing as you. Maybe 85 wins. Ceiling's going to be 95. I'll give him that. But no, you got to get those pieces right. And I don't want to keep talking about it. Phillies fans, that's the only thing they do talk about. So it gets really annoying. But no, if you can shore up what we've all been saying in this podcast, you can really push for it. If not, it's going to be just another one of those years that you've been putting up in the last 3 to 4. So it's all relying on this huge offseason that still has to be solved.
Definitely. Evan, I don't know if you'd like to make an amendment to your 0-162 or are we going to stick there?
How bad do you think the Phillies are? They're bad, I know.
I'm kind of interested to see what
bad.
A real number is.
No, I'll probably put them at like 80 wins just because I think not like in the 80s. I mean like they will win 80 games with a ceiling of 85 or 86. I just think like the way that the Mets and the Braves are, they're definitely running that show. I don't see the Phillies overtaking either one of those two teams. Just given, I mean, as of right now, I'll say based on the lineups and the rosters, I'll say that it's definitely the Braves and the Mets in front. I mean, if we want to jump into the MVP talk, I'm not going Bryce Harper, obviously.
Even though he just won MVP, because why would you? Why would you?
No, because why would I?
That doesn't make
definitely undeserved. I'm gonna go with Rhys Hoskins. I just think that's also another pick to have, and it's just that you need power throughout. And Rhys Hoskins, he was leading the Phillies in home runs and RBIs, I believe, before Bryce Harper started going sicko mode and hitting home runs, but it was just a fluke season. Anyway, I have him as my MVP.
I'm glad you're having fun with this one, Evan.
I'm having a lot of fun right now.
My pick we've touched on is he who shall not be spoken of, Bryce Harper. Mario, seems like kind of the obvious pick. I don't know if you want to pull one of those players out that you said you've been prepping or...
No, I obviously Bryce Harper, and I'd love to defend him in a full conversation, but on restrictions of time, I will not give my whole spiel on Bryce. He's my boy. I stick with him, but he's not going to be winning MVP this year. I think a guy who will be winning MVP is JT Realmuto, the guy who goes unnoticed, the catcher. I think one of the best catchers, if not the best catcher in the game right now. Well, no, not even close. It's JT Realmuto.
It's not even close with JT Realmuto.
He is a power bat, a contact bat. He is whatever you want it to be.
He's a waste of sperm on the field.
Man, what did the Phillies do to you?
The Phillies hate, man.
Like, is it just because I like them? I think this is an attack on me. It's mirrored by the Phillies hate. Let's be honest here. Jesus. No, but I got JT Realmuto. I think he's going to be a huge force. It's going to make or break the Phillies year. If you can get that production from the catching position, which we have seen from JT Realmuto, you're just increasing your chances of generating a lot more success, because I think all these other guys are going to have star-studded years. And Bryce Harper, we already know what we're going to get from him. It's going to be very similar. But no, JT Realmuto, if he can answer the bell, I think it's a great thing for the Phillies.
Yeah, catcher's always a position that kind of goes under the radar, and JT's been at the top of that for a few years now. So it's about time he gets some of the credit for all the success he's been having, even though Evan will refuse to give it to him.
Fluke season, man.
Fluke season, fluke 3 seasons, guys. Come on. Going into make or break, here's a guy who you want to talk about a fluke. Maybe you'll say his rookie year was a little bit of that. Alec Bohm is my make or break pick. I know a lot of Phillies fans are a little frustrated with him now. Promised big with his start to his career, came in, lit the league on fire, and now is having trouble both with the bat and especially defensively. So Alec Bohm is a guy that I don't want to say he needs to clean up his act, but if the Phillies want to be successful, third base is one of those key positions on the field that, you need solid and stable success from that position. And Alec Bohm just hasn't really been a sustainable player that you can plug in every day and feel confident in. So, he's young. He's got a lot of room to grow, obviously going to be growing pains, but you want to see Alec Bohm iron those out as quickly as possible if this Phillies window is open now and you want to capitalize on the playoff success sort of here. So Evan, we'll start with your make or break player. Oh, I don't like the sound of that.
Make or break. Yeah, I'll probably go either Alec Bohm or Didi Gregorius. I think they both had very underwhelming seasons last year, and if the Phillies don't want to be a waste of sperm in the MLB, they're definitely going to need to have more than the starting pitching carry them, because everyone else is terrible besides him and Rhys Hoskins. But yeah,
you like Rhys Hoskins for some reason. I don't know.
No,
I
it's
can't
just
put
a
my
better
finger
replacement
on it,
than Bryce Harper. It's just a better option than him. But yeah, no, in all seriousness, they need to step up tremendously if the Phillies want to have a chance at the wild card, because that's the only way that I really see them making the playoffs. I don't see them winning the division.
Mario, who's your pick? Get a little insider knowledge from the Phillies world over here.
Yeah, this guy you're not going to know. You're not going to know for sure who's going to make or break this year. You know anyone named Mickey Moniak?
I know Mickey Moniak, center fielder, right?
Yes, yeah. He is. I am very excited to see what this kid can do. He's from California, so he has some root ties with Bryce Harper. I don't know why he has root ties with Bryce Harper. I remember
Nevada.
I know.
Big fan.
No, I was going to get there.
Let him explain.
So he's
from the Phillies expert on the line.
Yeah. So I was listening to a bunch of interviews. So I watch a lot of the Phillies games, almost all of them, and like I was listening to this interview, and apparently he's like really good friends with Bryce Harper. I'm like, well, how? If he's from California, he's from Nevada. Turns out they've trained together for a while, and I don't know where this ever came from. It wasn't spoken to in the interview, but yeah, they're very good buddies. Mickey Moniak is a huge fan of Bryce Harper. No guest there, just like myself, and I think he's going to be a terrific piece for the Phillies going forward. He's a young kid, a lot of potential. He can just grab about any ball within distance in the outfield. He can make those web gym catches. He's the perfect package that I think the Phillies are really high on. And if he can put it up with the bat, the offensive numbers, he could be the make or break player here. And I wanted to dig deep for this one, so I picked Mickey Moniak. I love the name. Mickey Mantle's my personally favorite baseball player of all time. Mickey Moniak, let's stick with the name. Go Phillies.
Great pick, Mickey Moniak, a highly touted prospect. No doubt that he's going to come in. He's got the speed, he plays good defense, and he makes contact. So Mickey Moniak is going to be a guy for this team that, could slot into that leadoff spot, honestly, and really give you some good production. Really like that pick. I don't know if we've done Cy Young already. Obviously, the obvious pick here is Zach Wheeler. I mean, I don't know if anybody's going to have too much different. Maybe somebody wants to throw out a Nola or anything, but are we all sort of in agreement on Zach Wheeler for the Cy Young for this team? Or
yeah, it's gonna be Zach Wheeler. He's the stud. He's the ace on your team. Yeah. I know Aaron
probably
Nola
should have won the overall award last year, to be honest.
Max Scherzer, thank you.
Okay.
But no, Aaron Nola is a terrific second piece. She's going to pull his weight just as much as Zach Wheeler is, and he can maybe even give him a run for the money for the Cy Young. But if you want to throw in another name, and this guy had a terrific year last year, Zach Eflin. Or Zach Eflin, I think it is, around there.
From High School Musical, right?
Of course. Does not share the same looks, however, I will guarantee you that. But no, he had a terrific season last year, and it was just sort of like a breakout year for him. He broke out as a starting pitcher. He was getting win after win, high strikeouts, low walks, exactly what you want out of a third arm pitcher. If he can get that production again, I'm not gonna say he's gonna be the Cy Young, but he could be a valuable third for this Phillies team. And when it comes to pitching, the Phillies will take all they can get for guys who are going to throw it off the bump.
Definitely, definitely. Moving on now to the Washington Nationals, a team that is obviously not really trying to do much this offseason. They're just sort of, riding the wave and trying to, struggle for a few years, draft well, and hopefully find themselves on the other end of this, building around their star Juan Soto. As far as their offseason goes, I don't mean they haven't really done much. I mean, Cesar Hernandez was a decent ad, but obviously this team isn't really looking to contend. They're just sort of looking to fill holes and try to tread water for a few years before they can really be successful and have some of those prospects that you've gotten in that trade with the Dodgers really develop and sort of take control of this team. I don't really want to waste time with the whole offseason grade thing because there's not much to report there. But as far as wins go, I have them finishing at around 60, 61 wins. Maybe their ceiling is around 70 if they can get some uncharacteristic
70.
production. Yeah, I'm not very high on this Nationals team. Evan,
You
where do you
seem
sort
high
of sit
right
with
now.
that? I'd say that's a ceiling. That's a cap is 70.
How high's the ceiling?
Very high.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. I mean, like, look, I love the Washington Nationals trade with the Dodgers, just also based on the fact that I feel like both teams won that deal. The Dodgers found automatically a top 3 replacement in Trey Turner at shortstop, and the Washington Nationals probably got a guy who's going to be a top 5 catcher within the next 3 to 4 years in Keibert Ruiz. And even Josiah Gray, he pitched in the MLB a little bit. It wasn't terrific, but then again, it's the MLB, and he'll definitely find his way. And I think Washington's perfect for him just because the ample amounts of opportunity that will allow him to succeed. I mean, other than that, you got a bunch of bums besides Juan Soto, and I feel bad for Juan Soto because it's reminding me. I mean, we could go to Basketball Reference real quick. It's reminding me of Damian Lillard in Portland, where it's like,
yeah,
you're wasting a guy's career. Juan Soto is 26, 27, and I understand that, like, you can't have dead years with a guy like Juan Soto because, as dominant as he is, it's still very rare to find talent in guys when they're 35 and 36. Like, it's not a common thing. And I'm not saying Juan Soto won't be that, but it's not worth taking the risk. And if you're already saying screw the talent we have, let's build for the future, I think you should trade Juan Soto because imagine what you could get in terms of starting pitching prospects, outfield prospects to replace him. I don't think it's fair for Juan Soto to be in this position where they're wasting away a good career. I think he would be. I mean, I could think of a team off the top of my head. It would probably let's see. I mean, even a team like the Cardinals, they could trade something for, like the Cardinals are definitely, I feel like they're in a middle piece of, are we, win now mode, or are we tread our way into the playoffs, get into the wild card, but then lose the wild card game? I just think if they had a lineup that included Paul Goldschmidt, Nolan Arenado, and Juan Soto, and you find a way to get Juan Soto, I mean, you could definitely compete in a division in the NL Central, which we'll talk about later, that's also very wide open, and that if the Cardinals can definitely assert their dominance in that division. But anyway, I love what they're doing, but I think Juan Soto definitely needs to go, and I think he should be telling the Nationals, get me out of here.
Yeah. Obviously it's not a pretty situation. The only saving grace being that Juan Soto already got his ring, obviously, but it's not pretty there in Washington. Mario, what do you sort of think about how this season is going to go for them?
Yeah, it's not going to be a great one, and I obviously expected it. Their World Series team has so many veterans on that lineup that they're getting production from. Not a lot of rookies, not a lot of young guys pulling their weight, except Juan Soto. But no, they're going to be between 55, 60. The ceiling I got is 65 wins because I don't think they're going to be pushing whatsoever. There's no guys on this team besides Juan Soto that is going to tell me that, yeah, these guys are going to be making some decent strides. No, the Washington Nationals, they're going to be a struggling team. And Juan Soto, I just looked up his contract, and he's a UFA in 2025. So it's interesting to see how the Washington Nationals. It's interesting to see how they play it. I mean, if they're going to be a rebuilding team for the next couple of years, how good are you going to rebuild? How much good prospects are you going to generate? Because if they can generate a bunch of stable prospects around Juan Soto by 2025, entering or before that season, I think you have a chance at him staying. I mean, I don't see him trading. I don't see him leaving. I think he's going to be a core piece in this Washington Nationals organization. They've developed him. He's had a World Series ring here. I don't see him leaving and getting out of a Washington Nationals uniform. But that all relies on what the Washington Nationals do in these upcoming years. Who are they going to bring in? That's the big question. So it's hard to evaluate an off-season standpoint for the Nationals, but if you're going to look at drafts coming forward, those are the ones that you really have to evaluate.
Yeah, Juan Soto, a guy who's I mean, if we want to get into it, he's my pick for team MVP, and he's also my pick for league MVP next year. I think he's got a pretty good chance next year to maybe even dethrone Trout and become the best player in baseball if he has a kind of season the way he's having. I mean, it's Ted Williams-esque. It's Trout obviously has the benefit of the longevity, but Juan Soto is a guy who's having insane single years, and if he can string a couple of these together, there's going to be a conversation, especially with Trout's declining health lately. I think it's a pretty fair assumption to make that we all sort of have Soto as our MVP. I mean, there's not much else going on with this team. I don't really want to stay on it for longer than we have to. Yeah. Cy Young might get a little more interesting. Steven Strasburg, obviously coming off of that injury. Finally, we might get to see a full season from him next year if he stays healthy. I mean, on a rotation that honestly lacks a lot of talent. He's sort of seems to be the straightforward pick for Cy Young. Do either of you guys have anything different on the matter? Any other pick you want to throw out there?
I mean, I was just going to say, like, I don't think Juan Soto can win league MVP just for the sole fact that I think the Washington Nationals are going to be one of the top 5 worst teams in the National League. And I get it. Like, if the Nationals didn't even have him, could they even strike 50 wins right now? But I just think, given the whole media thing, I don't think it's good for the MLB if a guy that's playing on that bad of a team, granted how good he is, deserves MVP, because then you're not valuable.
I mean, historically, MLB's MVP award has been a war contest. It really hasn't been a contest of, best player on the team with the best record. I mean, that's a very,
I get that.
80s, 90s sort of MVP voting kind of thing. Yeah,
sure.
So it's realistic in a sense, but I agree with you that the most valuable player should be on a team that has a little bit of success going on. I mean,
like, season. I have no problem if the guy that wins league MVP is on a team that's above 500. I don't need them to win.
Yeah.
I don't need them to win the division, by a striking margin, but I just think a team that we can probably say is going to be about 30 to 40 games below 500 and maybe even 45 at the most. Like, I don't see it.
Yeah, no, that's totally fair.
Yeah, but to your point, in terms of Cy Young, it's very hard. I'm not really confident in Steven Strasburg, just given age and injury. Those two just don't mix well at all. Patrick Corbin probably had a horrific season last year. I'm just going to say Josiah Gray, given the potential.
Okay.
He was one of the top prospects in baseball. We absolutely fleeced him for Alex Wood and Yasiel Puig. And I just think, he has the most potential in terms of what he can bring. He might not have a winning record. He might go 4-12 for all I know. But it's just a matter of what his actual stats are in terms of walks to strikeouts and overall just ERA.
Yeah, definitely. Mario, do you have anything else for Cy Young? Or
it's a shame that I don't got much things to pick off of right now.
Yeah,
like, there's Corbin, who is I think he's gonna take a Cy Young for the team because he's a good pitch. It's just tough. He's a good pitcher.
Crazy that they won the World Series like 3 years ago.
Yeah, it is quite crazy just how fast it is to rock bottom, eh?
Do you guys think that this is like a bad issue that occurred where like Bryce Harper left and then like the dominoes just absolutely exploded?
I mean, they won a World Series.
But I just never seen a downfall like this from a World Series.
It was very quick.
It was very quick, but it was also a very old team.
Mm-hmm.
It was a very old team. True. Zimmerman at first base.
Then they traded all their young guys.
But I know, but you look at the core cast that you had Zimmerman, you had Howie Kendrick.
Howie Kendrick was a
aging pitching
beast.
rotation. I know, right?
No, I've just never seen anything like that, where like a team that won the World Series is now struggling
I mean, I want to compare it to the Royals, but it might have even been worse than the Royals fall off, right?
No, because the Royals were still like making the playoffs. They just weren't having the same success in the playoffs.
Mhm.
No, it's
Yeah,
a weird it's a weird situation for sure.
Yeah.
And Mateo, you speak it perfect. You say it perfectly. It's just old team, and they cashed their
I
check in
didn't
when they
realize.
had to. And
I forgot that
then
like
even if they didn't win a
Zimmerman.
World Series that following year, it would have been the exact same result. Those
Oh,
guys are all
exactly.
gone. You're
Yeah.
not going back to the well with that roster.
Yeah,
You're
I
scratching
mean,
it all.
yeah, it's just weird to see them let go of like all their talent. But to their credit, it's like if we're not going to even make the playoffs, if we might itch at getting a wild card, why not just go? Why not try to like not bullshit our fans and just be like, yo, like we're in a
Yeah.
rebuild.
You have to respect that as well, and just to see like the extent that they're willing to take it to letting go if they do end up letting go of Soto, and it'll be kind of
Mhm.
interesting to see how they play it over the next little bit. I think in the interest of time, we'll skip over make or break because I don't really think there's going to be any terribly interesting answers, and we'll jump into our final team of the afternoon, and we'll talk about the Miami Marlins, who I'm a huge fan of the way that they have played this offseason. I gave them an A in offseason grade. They were able to add a legit catcher in Jacob Stallings,
Yes.
which was obviously something that they really wanted to do. There was discussion that they would be open to trading one of their really talented young pitchers for a catching prospect or a guy that could come in and catch for this team. And you bring in Stallings, who's a guy who's going to lock it down defensively, and we've seen in Pittsburgh last year with a little bit with the bat as well, a little bit of ability to make contact, put some balls in play, and get on base. But Stallings is the perfect catcher for this young pitching rotation. I mean, he's got a veteran presence to him, even though he's not the oldest catcher in the league. He knows what he's doing. I mean, very slept on in Pittsburgh because he didn't get a lot of media coverage, but I love the ad. I think it was one of the best situations that a catcher could have been added to this team. And the Avisail Garcia signing, I think went totally under the radar as well. I think he's going to be a fantastic ad for them next year and really propel this offense. As far as the record for this team, I don't necessarily know if it's going to translate. I had them at around, they finished at 67 wins last year. I have them at around 75, maybe 77 wins this year. But let's bundle it together. Let's hear about your offseason grade for the Marlins and their record for next year. We'll start with Mario.
Yeah, so I got a B, just because they bring in those veteran bats that you can never get enough of. I love the bringing in of Wendell, Stallings, like you mentioned.
Yeah,
terrific,
Wendell as well.
Terrific behind the dish, and Garcia. That one, like you said, went under mine. You kind of introduced all of them for me. I just don't see this team doing anything. They're still very far away. They have I think they have one of the best young lineups in the MLB that is established and is going to go in, I'd say 3 years, 4 years. They're going to be maybe a contending team making a push for the NL East, but right now they're light years away from making a push or even getting into that conversation. And if you want to go skip towards record as well, I got them between maybe 70 to 75 wins.
Yes.
And maybe just over 75 is their ceiling, because I don't see much happening in Miami. Low market team. I'm surprised they even got these free agents to come down there, which was just a great thing to see out of the Miami Marlins, that they can actually draw free agents in. But no, there's nothing special going on there yet, but maybe something in the next couple of years.
It's a waiting game for the Marlins. It really is. I think fans got a little too excited when we saw their success in the shortened season and, the small sample size and everything. And we're like, oh my God, this team is going to be great. And they're all 22 years old and all this stuff. Right. But it's definitely a waiting game for the Marlins. They're a few years away, but the moves they've made this offseason have set them up for a lot of success in the near future, in my opinion. Just maybe not next year. Mm-hmm. Evan, how high are you on the Miami Marlins for next season?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're, they're definitely taking baby steps into, building a very solid team. They're just adding a lot of great players. Jacob Stallings, I mean, I remember Daniel was very upset that the Pittsburgh Pirates traded him because, as Daniel says, anyone that's good on the Pirates isn't good enough to be on the Pirates. So I felt bad for him. But, Sandy Alcantara, I think, is just a very underrated pitcher. I think he's fantastic. I think he's definitely deserving of being a number one in Miami. I think he would be a very solid number 2 or 3 on most contending teams. But they can definitely still build up their starting rotation. They definitely need another closer. Dylan Floro is not it, really. And I guarantee the Miami Marlins are now regretting trading Alex Vesia for Dylan Floro, just given the success that Vesia has had in LA. But Joey Wendell is great. I believe he was on the Tampa Bay Rays, if I'm not
Yes, he
mistaken.
was.
Okay, I'm
Yep.
trying to just remember everything. They got some great guys. Avisail Garcia, they brought him, I believe, from Milwaukee. He's a great outfielder to have. They definitely have. It feels like it's like the ground level of the house that they're trying to build, and I definitely think just with cap space that they have, and Miami is an attractive city. The issue is getting fans into the stadium, but in 2 to 3 years from now, when the market of players just rapidly increases and you see an abundance of UFAs and even RFAs that you can trade with, I definitely think the future is bright for a team like the Marlins, who I could see in the next 7 to 8 years definitely competing with a team like the Nationals for the top spot again.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting to see where this Marlins team goes in the future. Very, very high on their future. I'm sure you guys have gotten this impression by now, but I like where the Marlins sort of stand.
No, it's good. They just need fans. They have no
Yeah,
freaking.
that's the other thing.
I think my buddy told me, so I'm sorry for interrupting.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Their ticket prices are egregious.
Are they?
Yeah, my buddy has family in Miami, so he went to a Marlins game, and it was like the Marlins versus the Red Sox or something. I'm sorry, no, like the Marlins versus the Nationals or something like that,
Sure.
or the Cubs, Marlins versus the Cubs, and tickets were $70.
Wow. Like just to get in price?
Yes.
Wow. That's a little
or maybe
crazy.
like for where he was sitting. He was sitting, but like in that level 2 area. It's not like he's sitting behind.
Again, we're used to Toronto prices over here, so
I know. I'm shocked though.
Maybe like, $70 isn't that bad, but
no, yeah. I'm shocked because like Dodger tickets are like $15 to $20 to sit like in the outfield, and then security doesn't give a fuck half the time. So like I'm sitting in the 200s.
Yeah,
but no, I don't know. I just think that for how bad they are, I think the issue is like no one wants to spend. It's different because the Blue Jays are good.
Yeah, I mean, Marlins, $15 here. It'll get you it'll get you into the nosebleeds. It'll get you 500 level. You'll watch it on the big screen. Yeah.
Yeah. No, but I just think like their issue is just marketing. Like they need to figure out a way. And if it means lowering your ticket prices by 30%, it could increase your attendance, because I think they've had one of the worst attendance over the last 5 years. Like I remember in the lockout, in like the shortened season, they were averaging 7,000 fans.
Yeah, it's
they have a sketchy area too where that ballpark is located. I've known a couple of people that were fortunate, or I guess unfortunate enough to go to that ballpark, and it is not the greatest area. Very low, sketchy. Don't want to really be there or around that place.
Well, it's hard when you're in Miami and it's like such a popular like tourist attraction. The last thing people like regular people want to do is go to a baseball game. So they probably had to find some, and even like I'll say like Dodger Stadium's in like the hood. Like it's not like,
is it really?
I didn't know. It's not like in the nicest area. You're in downtown LA, so it's already like homeless people a lot. But you're not like you're not driving through the nice parts of LA.
I can't believe they charge $15 for a Dodgers ticket.
I was gonna say
that's my dream. That's my dream.
Yeah, like my dad.
I'd go every day.
Yeah, my dad and I during summer, my dad and I went to like 4 or 5 games, bought seats like up in the 500s or whatever.
Yeah.
For like $10 a ticket, and then we would go early we'd go a little bit early to watch BP or whatever. And then we would just go sit in the loge level, and I'd be like, all right, like that. Yeah. Like security does not care. They're so chill though. Like there's no security. And if there is, I'll be like, oh, like my friend's down there. And be like, oh, all right, for sure.
Yeah. The thing about the Rogers Center, you bring up the BP thing. I know we're getting totally sidetracked here, but I've never actually seen home BP at the Rogers Center. And
I don't know because they always hit first. I don't think the stadium even opens that early. I think they take home BP in an empty stadium. No, they open it for season ticket holders. It's the same thing in LA. So like season ticket holders get an extra like hour or something in the stadium, but I mean, I would never go that early.
I see. Yeah.
But yeah, because I've actually never seen Dodgers BP. I've only seen the road team.
Yeah. Okay, that's interesting. I learned something there. Yeah. That only season ticket holders get to watch home BP.
Yeah, so if you want to schlep up,
you gotta splurge a little bit.
Couple Genos, then you can.
Alrighty, let's finish off this Miami Marlins prediction before we get too sidetracked here. Let's bundle MVP and Cy Young. We'll do it rapid fire style. My MVP is Miguel Rojas, veteran pick on this team. He's a solid bat in this lineup, and he's been sort of, the veteran leader for this team. He's my pick for MVP. And then Cy Young, a name we've already heard today, Sandy Alcantara. I think probably the best young pitcher in this rotation, probably the one with the highest upside, and definitely the one that'll have the most success next season. If we just look at the numbers and the way they played last year, I think he's probably the furthest along in their progression. We'll go to Mario first. MVP and Cy Young quickly for the Miami Marlins.
Yeah, Miami Marlins MVP is going to have to be Jazz Chisholm. You talk about a guy who you want to draw in ticket prices, admission, you want to see fans in the building. Well, Jazz Chisholm is all that is going to be happening with that. He's swag. He's the face of the team. It's everything with him. He reminds me of a younger, and I think he's going to be a little bit more skilled than him, Javi Baez, in my eyes. Yeah, I have some high hopes with Jazz Chisholm, but yeah, he's going to be the team MVP. Team Cy Young, Sixto Sanchez. He is a flamethrower off the mount. I know you guys are going with that big name there. I just want to dig a little bit deeper. Go Sixto Sanchez. It's a sick name too, Sixto. Just take that in. Your name's Sixto.
Yeah, no, great picks. I mean, MVP, both sides of the double play combination. Evan, where are you sort of going with that? MVP and Cy Young.
Crap, I didn't study for the test. No, I'm kidding. I would say Cy Young. I want it to be Sandy Alcantara because I want him to build a name for himself that allows him to get the respect that I think he ultimately deserves. In terms of team MVP, this is kind of hard, but oh God, it was hard thinking of it just because a lot of these guys are so young still. Avisail Garcia definitely has potential to be the team MVP, but I think I'm going to stick with Sandy Alcantara too, because I do think in the end, it is pitching that wins you a title. It's pitching that wins you a division. It's pitching that wins you a game. We'll say it all the time with certain teams. You could have the best offense in the world, but if your pitching is dog shit, you will lose 12-11. It is that simple. So I definitely think Sandy Alcantara needs to be the MVP of this team in order for this team to have success. I know he pitches once every 5 days, but it could just be leadership that then percolates throughout that entire rotation.
Yeah, I don't want to overlook the rest of these those great arms in the Miami rotation. Obviously, Pablo Lopez, Trevor Rogers, Jesus Luzardo, and Edward Cabrera, to name a few guys that are, a few years away, but are definitely going to be very solid pitchers in the league. And, never a bad problem to have too many starting pitchers. That's for sure. As far as make or break goes, my pick is Avisail Garcia to make because, everybody kind of looked at it. You signed an older guy to a longer deal. They're like, how is this sort of going to pan out? But Avisail Garcia is a guy that has been consistent for many years in the league. And he's coming off, you look into the numbers a little bit, maybe not the traditional stats, but if you look a little bit deeper, you could argue that this season was the best season of his career. And he's coming off of that, signing a big free agent deal. He's got to relax a little bit now. He doesn't have much to prove, and he can go play in Miami and be a leader on this team and lead this offense. So I think the success of this Marlins offense, especially, is sort of going to follow the way Garcia goes. And he's going to be sort of a marker of how their offense is doing this year. When he's up, I think the Marlins will be up. And when he's down, I think the Marlins will be down. We'll go to Mario for your make or break player for the Marlins.
Yeah, Jesus Aguilar. That name strikes me a little bit. I know there's not many names to choose from just because they are so young and they're going to have, we already know when their calendar is to push for a playoff spot. It's long down the road, and we'll get there when we get there. But Jesus Aguilar, I think he's going to put up terrific numbers for this team. He's done it for a little bit. So if he can keep going, I know there's not much in-depth analysis on this team just because it's not followed very often.
It's very hypothetical too, right?
Yeah, it's very hypothetical. Yeah. So yeah, I got him as my player.
Yeah, for sure. Evan, where are you sort of sitting with make or break?
Make or break. I'm gonna go with Jesus Aguilar.
Okay.
I just think this was a guy that we saw in Milwaukee who he definitely had the power. I mean, I remember there were just times I remember when the Dodgers were playing the Brewers in the playoffs, and I was afraid every time Jesus Aguilar stepped up to the plate because I thought he was going to hit a home, just bash a ball out of Dodger Stadium or out of what is it, Brewer Park? I can't remember what it is.
Miller Park.
Miller. Oh my.
Yeah.
I'm an idiot. Anyway, like I just think he definitely lost his groove, it feels like. And I just think he needs to be the leader in the clubhouse. He needs to be the guy stepping up, making the big plays. And yeah, just last season, I'm sorry, not last season, I'm talking about the 2020 season, definitely underwhelming. And even these past couple of years have been underwhelming. He hit 35 home runs back in 2018. And then within a span of maybe the span of the 2 seasons after that, he had a grand total of 20. So, I'm talking again about a guy that was kind of like hitting 35 home runs and then quickly disintegrating. So I'm just hoping a guy like Jesus Aguilar can step up.
Yeah, Aguilar, a name that's sort of, gone by the wayside a little bit, but definitely not somebody that you should sleep on at all. This Marlins team is going to be very good in a few years and, has the potential to maybe surprise some people this year. And that seems to sort of be the theme of the division overall, like very wide open, very open to surprises. And a lot of these teams, barring the Nats, obviously could have a very interesting start to the season. And, everything could change. Everything could flip on its head.
Sure.
But yeah, boys, thanks for joining us today for these NL East predictions. Looking forward to getting together with you guys in a little bit and talking about the Central. And thanks for joining us and have a good night. Take care.
Yeah.